Hello and welcome to the Gibson Show. This is the show where we talk to some of the top talent in the world of Rainbow Six Siege. And tonight, when I talk about top talent, we definitely have that. One of the greatest casters to have ever done it in Rainbow Six. One of the voices of the game. He has casted SI finals, majors, regionals, and everything in between, and has always done it with passion, enthusiasm, and respect. Please welcome in the one, the only Parker Interro Mackay. Parker, how you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. I don't deserve such effusive praise, but I will take it and say thank you.
Of course you do. Look at that resume. You've got the resume that most people can only dream of. And I think for anyone aspiring to become a caster, we're going to really find your path today. And it's something that I think people should really have a look at and try to emulate, because you've made it to the very top. But the main thing is you've always been accessible, haven't you? You know, you've always been happy to help out new people, even replying to me on a Twitter DM when you've no clue who I am. I think that's the thing people love about you. You're really approachable.
I try to be. I think that you have to insulate yourself from some of the nonsense in the community, and sometimes being too accessible can be an issue for like your own mental health and time. You know, there's certain days where it's just like if some kind of firestorm happens on Twitter and you step in the middle of it, there's just not enough time in a day for you to be able to answer and respond to everybody. And there's obviously guilt that sets in, but I think that one of the beautiful things of esports is how accessible it is, right? It's real entry level for a lot of people. You get in the door, you can watch players on stream, you can interact with them on Instagram, Twitter, etc. It obviously is a huge difference from traditional sports. And I think the sense of community that comes with esports really does just elevate the entire industry and the entire community to a level that you can't really get much where else.
Yeah, I totally get that. Hopefully, I'll be in a similar situation myself someday, but that story is yet to be written. So, start of the new year. How was the turn of the new year for you? I guess, did you enjoy the holidays? Was it a busy start to 2022?
No, actually, we have some pretty lengthy time off. Once the NAL finals in LA were done, well, LA for us, Vegas for the teams. Once that was done, you know, I was off till, well, I guess I still am off until SI begins. You know, it's a clear calendar for a month and a half, which is not a bad thing. The problem is here is that it was right when COVID cases spiked. So basically everything started to shut down, or you were encouraged to not go out of your house sometime around Christmas. And I had a pretty close COVID scare myself, like a week before Christmas, and it kind of just knocked some sense into me about, oh, maybe I should take this a bit more seriously. Maybe it's pretty severe. It turned out to be, and I mean, it's awful that the month that I have off, I have spent entirely at home. But I'm back on the stream grind, and I gotta say, I'm enjoying Rainbow Six more than I have in probably about a year and a half, and it's been nice to, you know, acquaint myself with viewers and Twitch customs, etc. After basically taking all of 2021 off of Twitch. I think I only streamed like 40 days or something like that. So I feel like I've already streamed half of that so far this year, doing double streams on a lot of days. And I mean, it's been good for my mental health since I can't leave my house.
Yeah, I think it's kind of been a blessing in disguise, Twitch, for a lot of
I can't
people.
hear you. You're muted.
Oh, Peak?
I still can't hear you.
Yeah, I can't hear me.
I can see your lips moving.
Do you have me muted on Discord? Unmute Discord.
Your mic is not lighting up on Discord.
Peak, you can hear me, right?
There you go. Now I can hear you.
Right. I don't know. I don't think we need to redo the question. I think we can just take it off from where Parker left it off, talking about Twitch. So,
because you started to respond to that, and then that's when I couldn't hear you.
Yeah. So we'll go 3, 2, 1. Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. You know, Twitch has been a lifesaver for a lot of people over the course of the last 2 years. People a little bit lonely, and just that ability to interact with people and feel like you're not alone has really helped. So, you know, long may Twitch continue to be good, but hopefully very soon we'll be able to get back hanging out with our loved ones, you know, going out to the bars again, get back to some semblance of normality. So let's get stuck straight in then to the actual interview part, Parker. And this is an interview that I'm really looking forward to, because I'm really interested to see how exactly you got to where you are as well. I know you've told little snippets of the story already, but but I want to get into detail about everything that we could possibly learn about Parker. So
Okay.
let's get stuck in. You're one of the voices people hear whenever they think about Rainbow Six. When you close your eyes and somebody says Rainbow Six Esports, they hear your voice. What is it actually like being someone who is so respected and loved in one of the biggest esports in the world? Does it ever kind of hit you, the realization that you're a really big name?
I mean, no, it doesn't, because I approach it in the sense where it's just a job, and that's really what it boils down to. I've never been the type of person, even growing up, to get starstruck or have any excessive amount of admiration when it comes to celebrities or musicians or politicians, etc. I'm actually quite turned off by the whole idea of cult of personalities and stuff like that. But it's an honor to know that so many people equate me to the greats and compare me to the greats in esports. I think it's a huge privilege, and being recognized at the esports awards was very cool. I'm not usually the kind of guy who likes awards shows either. I think they're often very self-congratulatory, but to get recognized by my peers was really sweet. I think it's just one of those things where I view it as a job, and I try to keep that level head on me, because I don't want to be like, do you know who I am? I'm the voice of Rainbow Six. I think that's absurd for me to say that out loud. And I'm a dude who works and casts video games for a living. I think it's a great job. It's an awesome job, to be completely frank. But I try to keep myself away from indulging in the finer parts of it, for example, and what comes with it, because I think it can lead you down a pretty bad road.
Yeah, I love that response from you, really, and how you do stay so humble. So you spoke about working in esports, and you and I are a very similar age. Most people who end up with a job in esports, they get introduced to gaming young. It's part of your formative years. It makes you who you are. When you were growing up, what games really inspired you? And at what point did you think to yourself that there is a career in esports for you?
I mean, the whole when did a career in esports pop up literally came up when I was getting into Rainbow Six. Never before that did I think that I would have an opportunity to make anything of it. I started playing competitively, back in the day with StarCraft Brood War. We're talking back in 2001, 2002, 2003, somewhere in that window. And I used video games to be an escape from regular life. And I always was a gamer growing up. I was never the popular kid at school, and I always had, issues with bullies and being antagonized and not being particularly happy with, the school life. So you'd always come home and, your N64 and your computer is never going to really treat you badly. So I started playing StarCraft growing up, and then that moved on to Diablo 2. And I would probably credit Diablo 2 with being the big launching pad for any type of interest in video games. Once Diablo 2 came around, and I was dueling regularly. I was in guilds. I was in clans. I was spending time with real life friends. And then from there, I moved on to Call of Duty. We played in a semi-professional league, as professional as it could get on PC. And that's when I first tried my hand at casting. And I never thought it would go anywhere, because back then, Modern Warfare 2 was 2009. The esports landscape in 2009 was, it was a baby. It had just been born, if even born at that point, compared to now where we've come so far. And I remember the first prize for our competition, our biggest competition in 2009, our first prize was a computer. That was it. And now it's in the millions of dollars for people. So it's a completely different industry now. And I fell out of gaming. I went back to, quote unquote, regular life, and then just ended up getting sucked back in when I was waiting to go back to university, and it turned out to be a career. And it wasn't until I signed that second contract and actually had to move permanently to Poland that I realized this could be a job that I could stay in for a while.
Yeah, I love that that's kind of the path that you got to get in there. And looking back at old esports events as well, I think there was a picture doing the rounds on Twitter recently of a tournament where they had, was it 15 or 20 Bitcoin for third place? And you're going, the mind just blows now. You think to yourself, I wonder, do those people still have that on their digital wallets? And I just love to see where esports has come. So you spoke about starting to get into casting. At what point did you feel like, hey, I have a knack for this? Was it people that kind of approached you and said you were really good at it? Or were you watching back VODs of yourself and comparing them to maybe some peers and saying, you know what, I think I do this better than them. They do this better than me. Maybe I could take some of their stuff. just tell me everything about how you actually got into casting.
Growing up, I watched a lot of sports, whether it be baseball, whether it be hockey. Hockey, obviously, being a big one here in Canada, and there's some legendary sports broadcasters that we've had, and I always revered them, and I thought that they had great voices, and I felt like good commentary really could elevate a moment in traditional sports, and I never really considered it a career path, but ever since I was a kid, you get compliments here and there about people saying, well, you've got a good voice, you have a good cadence, you speak well, it's very clear, you should go into radio broadcasting. And funny enough, I mean, that was what I wanted to do. And I applied for a program for radio and television broadcasting, and I got waitlisted for it. And instead of waiting for it, I just took another offer to go study political sciences. So it helps that you're born with a voice that people think, oh, hey, that would go well through, like a radio medium. As for like esports, I remember being in a meeting when we were on that Call of Duty team, and somebody just said, you have a really clean voice. Have you ever considered doing like commentary for esports? I said, no, I didn't even really know that was a thing at the time. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I don't know if you recall, but there were videos making the rounds of this one guy who used to go into either Counter-Strike or Team Fortress 2 or Day of Defeat. He'd go into open servers where both teams could hear audio, and he would essentially act like a broadcaster, and he would commentate the rounds. And a lot of people sure probably found it very irritating, but I thought it was super cool. And I was like, man, that'd be something neat to do. And I tried doing it in Team Fortress 2 a couple times, and the reception was surprisingly good, and I enjoyed it a lot. And then obviously I didn't do anything for several years, and until I got back to, I think it was Overwatch actually. And we were doing like some in-house scrims. Somebody's like, you should try casting them. So I did, and the reception was good. And then I ended up getting into Rainbow Six, and I got noticed for it, and it just kind of took off from there. Since then, I've done a lot more homework and research on people who I work with in the industry. There's some great voices that I wish I could sound like and wish that I could match up to. OD Pixel, Uber, Sadokiss. To me, like, these guys are the gold standard of commentary. Recently, Miles Ross has obviously really, really climbed up that ladder super quick. But when I was first starting out, I was super green. I didn't know anything about the industry. I didn't know anything about proper casting. I was trying to work with Kicks, who also didn't know anything about casting. So it was a mess at the beginning, and it just took time and lots of research. And I think that's how most jobs work. You can't just come in and expect to be the best. You have to put in the work. And I eventually did that. And Michael did that as well. And with it, I think we both developed our own habits and patterns and got to where we were. And you're constantly listening and learning to people around you to try and take cues from them to make yourself better. I don't think that'll ever stop.
Yeah, I think constantly chasing excellence, like you said, the minute you think you're at the top of the mountain, you can only really go downhill from there. So I like the idea that you've got that mindset of constantly improving and getting better at what it is you do. And that kind of nicely segues us over to the next question. Looking forward into the future, 5-10 years from now, with the way esports is going, do you see yourself still being involved as a caster in 5-10 years, or is there a bigger goal for where you want to be in esports?
I don't think there's a bigger goal. I think that commentary is the job that I would like to work if I stuck around. I have no interest in coaching. I have no interest in doing analysis. I have no interest in being a player. Obviously, I'm way too old for that anyway. I don't really have much of an interest on like the production or like organizational side of things. Like, I really enjoy the job that I do, and I think that I'm very good at it. But obviously I have to be conscious of the fact that as you get older, the audience for esports tends to be quite low, and there are very few older people in esports. So it is entirely possible that I just end up aging myself out. Some new game. Are you going to want to listen to a 45-year-old guy talk about a video game? A lot of the 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that make up a huge portion of the audience will probably say no, right? So I don't know. Will I age out? Will I get to a point where, at some point I'd like to start a family, maybe settle down. I'd like to buy a house in Toronto if the prices don't continue to explode upwards. And at that point, maybe I'm 36 and, in 5 years' time, and I don't really want to be traveling half of the year. Maybe I want to do something more localized, and maybe that means giving up on commentary and being more hands-on with, the universities or colleges in Toronto that have now started to expand into esports. Almost every single major university in Ontario here in Canada has an esports team. And a lot of colleges are investing a ton of money into esports labs and esports centers and are starting to put programs together. Hell, one of the guys who helps run Parabellum works at Seneca College here in Toronto to teach a part of esports to the students of Seneca College. So I don't know what the esports landscape looks like in 5 years. I don't know if there'll be more stability or whatnot, but I know for sure that I'm not particularly interested in leaving the industry at the moment, but it depends on whether the industry ends up leaving me because I just get too old.
See, I don't think aging out's going to be an issue from a commentary standpoint, because you look at, like you said, sports, and I'll stick to the American sports because I'm talking with you, but you see people like Joe Buck, people like that have been around for a long time, and necessarily if someone is the voice of a sport, I don't think they can age out. It's just the decision of when they want to move on. So you spoke about the college scene and, helping out, young talent. Is that something you would love to do? Nurture these 17, 18-year-old people who want to get into, producing, casting, analysis. Is that something that you think that you would have a real affinity and ability to be able to do?
I'm interested in it. Absolutely. I'm kind of back and forth on it because, I think it comes from a good place, but at the same time, I think everybody's going to be conscious of, well, am I literally training my own replacements? But the way that I look at it as I received next to no guidance when I came into esports. There were a couple people who were really instrumental in my development. Desichu actually helped me a ton because he had more broadcast experience at the time, having worked on Contenders and having actually studied the craft, outside of the industry. Desichu was somebody that would send me a lot of advice, often unsolicited, but very much appreciated as to how I could improve. And I don't think I get to be the caster I am today without that kind of guidance. Panky also helped an awful lot. Milos helped quite a bit. And then of course, Kix, when working with him, he helped refine my ability to describe things in game and then work together with our partnership to be a better caster as well. So it's something where I'd love to pay that back. And I've helped people before, I helped Flynn repeatedly at the beginning get a better footing as to what I think that he could improve upon. And I've given just small little bits of advice to people who've reached out before in regards to how to get started. In terms of actually being more hands-on with it, I don't know if it'd be through a collegiate level, but I would definitely like to help train the next generation of casters, because so many people end up in this industry solely because of either who they know or how they sound. And then they don't have any actual abilities outside of that. People like Stokes, people like Caliber Jacob, they sound amazing on the broadcast, but neither of them come from any professional training. They kind of just get thrown in and you sink or you swim, and that's it. And sometimes you don't get offered any advice or any guidance. I think that's a very poor system to put in place. So I would love to be able to give my abilities to other people and some of that knowledge so that they can be the best casters that they can be.
I really do love that, because as a young caster myself, well, not young, I'm old, but as someone who's new to the industry, I have found a lot of the people in the UK scene to be so helpful. People like Jerry the Music Man, if you're aware of him, he's been so good to me. Ollie, Ace, and I think maybe it's the same mindset as you. They came in with maybe not as much of a helping hand, and they kind of made themselves into who they are, and they don't want to see people, like you said, sinking. If they think someone has talent or ability, they want to help that person achieve their goals, because I think most people realize that an event that is being casted by multiple people is only as good as the chemistry and the bond that those casters have. Because if one caster does well and another one does bad, in my opinion, that's still a bad cast. You need both casters to be on it for a broadcast to be really good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, I think that the cast lives or dies based on the duo that's there. Yeah, if there is constantly a broadcast where one caster is head and shoulders above the other, then there needs to be some kind of conversation about, the quality of the show, while also acknowledging that maybe one of the casters who's not that strong, by giving more airtime to the stronger caster, actually does make the broadcast better. It's never as easy as, okay, well, this person's dragging them down, let's get rid of them and bring in somebody else, because that person who might not be the strongest could be enabling the other broadcaster to be better. For example, if you do color commentary, but you continuously give play-by-play to the play-by-play caster because they are very, very good at it, then maybe the cast doesn't need more color commentary. Ace and Dez are revered in Rainbow Six, and both of them are play-by-play casters. So there's a lot of banter. There's a lot of like friendship between the two of them that comes off on that broadcast, but there isn't a ton of proper, real expert analysis. And guess what? They show that it can work and that you don't necessarily need analysis to be super heavy on some of these broadcasts for people to enjoy them.
Yeah, I think especially in NA, people have got a real love for Ace and Dez now. And to me, we'll get into it later, but their chemistry to me is very similar to what you had with Kicks. There's just sometimes people that naturally they just fit together like, they fit together like a jigsaw. And I think those two are one of them.
Yeah.
But kind of talking about 2022, then SI is around the corner. It may even be on or have happened by the time this goes out. But are there any rosters out there that are really exciting you in 2022? I know it's still kind of silly season and some rosters are making changes, but as of kind of today, who are you really excited about this year?
I've actually never been excited about the teams that already exist. I get more excited about potential roster swaps on like the lower level teams. For example, in NA right now, Beast Coast and Xset just fire sailed their rosters. I don't know by the time this airs if they'll have picked up people, but right now, there's two people, one person left on Xset. I think the only person left on Xset is Prod right now, I believe, from the announcements that they made. And then from Beast Coast, I think the last person left is Anthony, and that's it, right? So I get excited by that potential. I get excited to see what these teams are going to do because we're not in those, the olden days of where 3/5 of the roster need to stick around. And Ord can just totally just chop up the whole team and field a new one. And to me, that is exciting because there's so much potential and there's so much unknown. Out of like the bigger teams, I mean, like they're all known quantities. I'm excited to see what happens with Dark Zero as they continue to grow. I will say that much. I am excited to see what G2 does because I'm almost certain they're going to blow up that team in Europe and make some significant changes. I'm excited to see if Fnatic is able to bounce back once they are actually able to relocate and get involved in hopefully a proper LAN league in APAC if that's still on the table. So those are things that I'm excited for and looking for. I also am very excited by Damwon Kia, and I hope they continue to grow. And I'm excited by Team One in Latin America. But my eyes right now are on the new teams. My eyes are on what's going to happen with these younger squads in the leagues where they are free to just absolutely blow up the team and rebuild, because those ones are the real wild cards. Those are the question marks that are on our page, and we're wondering what's behind them and how they'll do.
Yeah, there's a lot of young talent coming through now too. As kids who kind of matured playing Rainbow Six are now hitting that eligibility age where they can start playing at the highest level. And there's a lot of names out there that, like you, they might not have been in the tier, the tier 3, tier 2, tier 1 scene before, but they're getting in there. And I'm really excited to see what they can do. Even, he might not be one of the younger people in the scene, but seeing Citizen absolutely pop off in that best of 3 and beat the record almost after 2 games. That was a record that was set by Shaiko that I don't think anybody thought was going to be beat. So to see that these records can still be broken, it's exciting times for Siege, because it's, in my opinion, it's not gone stale. Siege has still got a lot of potential over the next few years.
I think so. I think it just depends on how they manage the meta. That's really it, right? I think the devs have listened to a lot of complaints that we had about the game, especially about like explosives being on operators, being as everything required explosives, right? How many bulletproof gadgets did we get added? And it turned out to be a bit of a slog. And while, yeah, it's probably a more tactical game, more akin to chess, it was very slow and very grindy, and it wasn't fun to play. So I think in terms of the game's balancing right now, the game is in a really, really good place in terms of like parity between operators. There's still a couple changes I'd like to see made, and I'm still very apprehensive that they're going to bring in more, bulletproof gadgets. My hope is that they don't do that, but for the time being, I'm content with where it is. And I think we see at the top level, there are a lot of comps that are extremely viable, and with changes to certain operators, it's kind of blown the whole thing wide open.
Yeah, and speaking of those changes, this is the question that I'm asking every guest, because I want to put a little compilation of the answers to this one too. If there was something about Rainbow Six esports that you could change, what would it be and why?
About esports, like the esports scene, or are we talking about the scene, or are we talking about the game?
Both. It can be either or.
Oh boy, I don't know what I'd change about Rainbow Six esports. I think the esport itself is in is in a pretty good place. I mean, I would try to change the spectating system, but God knows how you do that. I'd speed the game up, frankly, especially from an esport perspective. If I was to change it for esports, I would get rid of six pick. I would get rid of the reveal phase. I would have it so that you have 10, 15 seconds to pick your operator and load out and then get into the round. Reinforcements are faster. The prep time is cut down because of the fact that you can set up quicker. There just needs to be less downtime in the game.
Yeah.
I understand why people like playing Rainbow Six, but I find that playing Rainbow Six is more enjoyable than watching it a lot of times, because there is just an extraordinary amount of downtime. And then when action happens, it all tends to happen clumped up in the same time frame, and it's impossible to catch it all from a spectator perspective. We have outstanding spectators, but they are handicapped by the system and handcuffed to the spectating system we have right now. How do you fix that? I frankly, I don't know. But you watch games like Call of Duty, Halo, Valorant, Counter-Strike. They're in, action is happening, they're out, reset. Mm-hmm. All the while that happens, Rainbow Six, we're still on drones. We're halfway through the round. Nobody's died yet. The game has been aged by the fact that shooters have gotten so fast in competition to Rainbow. And I think that is, unfortunately, we are in an era where people have very low attention spans. And I think ultimately that hurts Rainbow more than anything. So I'd try to fix that, but I just don't know how you do it.
Yeah, well, it's a good one to keep an eye on. So we're going to segue on to another topic now. And I want to talk about your podcast that you have with Canadian. Tell us how that one all came about, because I know that a lot of people who will watch this, they love that podcast. They adore it. How did that all start?
I've been talking about doing a podcast for quite a while. I have my own podcast series that I do called Bang On, which usually only happens when there's something in the community I think really needs to be discussed. And, lately I just have not had the energy to do that. Not only have I been avoiding streaming up until late, but I've definitely been avoiding ranting because I get tired of it. And I'm so low energy so much because, it's been a grueling 2 years. But the podcast between him and I came from the fact that I enjoyed what I was doing, but I wanted more content to look at the pro scene, because we have a startling lack of proper content being made about the more sophisticated side of Rainbow Six Siege, and I think a lot of that was because there was no replay system. So a lack of a replay system means that you can't get content creators who break down rounds, who do proper VOD reviews, who are capable of going in and actually watching the clever little tricks that are done. And sometimes something fascinating could unfold, but once again, our spectating system might not catch it. So I had tried with a couple different people to put together a podcast. Canadian is a good personal friend of mine, and he's somebody that his knowledge of the game is unimpeachable. So I figured he's charismatic, he's knowledgeable, he's well known. This is a perfect mix. Let's bring us together and do a show. The original idea was it was going to be relatively casual. It was kind of just going to be him and I talking for about an hour and a half about the week in review. Then we started bringing on guests, and that resonated really hard. And it became more of a show about interviewing people within Rainbow Six, because we also, not just do we have a drought of analysis at a high level, we also have a drought of storytelling involving the people in the scene. Every documentary is the same 10 fucking people in our community. And it's so tiring. It's so tiring seeing, yeah, I love Pengu. Yeah, I love Zig. Yeah, I love Bolo. Yeah, I love Canadian. Do we need a fourth documentary about these people? No, we don't. How about some of the other personalities and other scenes that I think you can absolutely bring on and highlight? So what we tried to do was we tried to bring on guests that people wanted, but also people in the community that you don't usually hear from. And I think that was something that was also missing, but we do that while also diving into analysis, talking about past events, talking about past successes, and trying to hit both of those notes at the same time. Eventually, Troy just got to a point where I think he was getting kind of bored just playing, and he wanted something else to do and maybe to stretch his legs in a different area. And I said, well, why don't we do the podcast now? And he said, yeah, let's do it. And that's really how it formed.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of the podcasts that I actually do listen to, because, as you know yourself, it can be very hard as an adult when you're doing some casting. You've got other things to do. It's hard to find time to get a podcast in, but I always love listening to your one because, like you said, it's bringing on people who aren't the norm. It's interesting. And I think when you're watching a podcast, if the two people who are on or three people on are genuinely having fun, you're more likely to enjoy the podcast. So I think I really hope you two can keep that going, because I think it's definitely something that's needed in the world of Siege. But I'm going to move on now to the other topic, and I know this comes up in every single podcast, and I don't think it'll ever get easier to talk about. But you really did have a special working relationship with Kix. You know, the chemistry that you guys had, the commentary had, even the banter you had. Like I've been in stitches in the past, laughing watching you two just knock puns out back and forward between each other. And I know these are the things you look back on and love, because if there was something amazing happening in the game and you two started having puns, people didn't mind. They loved it. They loved sucking up everything that you had. So in the recent documentary that came out, that I thought was really well done, by the way, you know, I think it was very tasteful. You spoke about how you kind of touched on how the two of you met in Poland. You know, you reached out to him, you showed him your tape, and so, you know, you kind of weren't expecting him to say, hey, come cast with me over in Europe. But talk us through that whole experience. You know, what made you reach out to him, how and how it kind of went from there.
Oh, it was just that I was putting together a 10-man, and you know, at the time I was casting CCS, which is the I would say probably the biggest amateur NA circuit. If people are not familiar with CCS, they are the same ones who are hosting the North American SI quals. So if this airs after SI, then you know, if people watched TSM, Parabellum, One Shot, Mirage all fight each other, then they likely watched it on the CCS channel, so they will be somewhat familiar with it. I was casting with Talon in CCS at the time, former pro player for Onslaught and Ronin, and I was trying to put together just a simple 10-mans, and I was like, surely there's a better system for assembling all this. And he said, well, yeah. He's like, Kickstar actually does one for the Pro 10s. You should reach out to him. I mean, it's kind of daunting, right? I'm not a caster at this point. I'm just doing it casually. I'm waiting to go back to school. There's no ambition to make this, you know, there's no ambition on my end to make this a career. There's no goal there. I'm casting for fun in the meantime, and I'm gearing up to go back to university in the fall while I'm on a break. You know, that's it. And I reached out to him, and, you know, he responded, and we just started talking, and we just kept talking. And he's like, oh, you're a caster, you know, get into a voice call with me. I'll run you through it. And then he basically, at the time, he was having his issue with Bloodbath, and neither of them were enjoying casting with each other. Mm-hmm. And he just, you know, we got to know each other. And the main takeaway I had was, it was just like, he was lonely in Poland, which I don't blame him, because when I moved to Poland for the 3 years I lived there, I was lonely as well. So I totally get where he was coming from. And I think he just wanted somebody that he could talk to and just hang out with, and just, you know, Kix was at times a very hard personality to get along with, because he had so many weird quirks and idiosyncrasies that a lot of people don't have. And he could be prickly, he could be curt. And it wasn't because he was rude or mean. It's just because that was where his mind was at, or he, you know, couldn't be bothered, or he didn't know better, right? And I feel like a lot of people didn't really give him the time of day, because they just were like, this guy's an asshole, and then they just move on, which I think is a very normal reaction to somebody like that. I'm not faulting these people for having it, but I don't know. I didn't find him that hard to manage. Sometimes he was very difficult to talk to at the beginning, but as we got talking more and more, he just floated the idea, and he said, I think you're good at what you do. And I think there were people in the community at the time. England had tweeted about me. Skies had tweeted about me. I'd been followed by a number of pros who behind the scenes had advocated for me, you know, to possibly get a shot either doing Challenger League or Pro League. And he said, you know, if an opportunity arose for me to step away from my current duo and cast with somebody else, would you move to Poland to do that? And my answer was no. I said, no way. I'm not moving to Poland. Absolutely not. I'm going back to school. All my friends are here. My family is here. I have zero desire to move to Europe. And then anyway, 2 months later, I moved to Poland. So it ended up working out. And the more I thought about it, and the more I talked to him, and the more I talked to people in the scene, the more confident I became in a decision to actually go there and give it a whirl. And that's really it. And, you know, we weren't friends right off the bat. It took us a while, but I mean, you can't just force a friendship in a couple weeks, in a couple months, right? You have to kind of fake it when you're casting. But while we might have faked it right at the start, I would say that we had established a friendship probably by SI 2018, which was, you know, 6 months after having actually met in person, and then became very close friends in the, you know, in the following months. By the summertime, fall of 2018, you know, I'd say we were very, very close, and our friendship only continued to grow from that point onward.
Yeah, it really was electric when the two of you got together. There was just so much energy. But I want to speak about that decision to move to Poland. So you get off the phone, you get off a call or you get off these messages from Kicks and you go to your parents and you say, hey, this guy that I know through casting has offered me a job in Poland. What was the kind of reaction to that and amongst your family and friends?
My parents are not the type of people who handle that kind of stuff very, very well if you tell them in advance. So whenever I've had to make like a big life decision, I just, I do the political math and I say I basically have to give them no heads up so that they don't really have a time to like stew or brood over it. So it was one of those things where I had kind of floated the idea a couple times, just, like trial balloons to see how that would go over. Hey, what if I move to Poland? Hey, what if this is a real opportunity for me to work and be on this camera, blah, 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 because they knew I was already doing it at an amateur level. And they both thought it was insane. They thought that, they're like, you need to finish up the last year degree because I'd taken, at that point, I was in my third year of being off from school because I was burnt out and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And they said, you need to finish your degree. This is not sustainable. Esports is not a real industry, which is a very widely held belief. A lot of people think that it's just, you're playing pretend with video games. That's it. And it's built out of ignorance of how big esports as an industry is and how many people work in this industry now. It's astonishing, but it's a blind spot for, people who aren't, really connected to gaming in general. So when I said to them, I might be moving to Poland, I'm, there's an opportunity that may come up. I don't know when, blah, blah, blah. They were not very big fans of it. And I got messaged on Tuesday morning by Daniel Novak, who at the time was the product manager. I guess they're both used interchangeably here for Rainbow Six for ESL. He messages me on Tuesday morning and he's like, hey, do you want to move to Poland? And I was like, would you? And I was like, okay, I guess I'll have to be ready for this. I said, when? And he goes, we can work out the details tonight or tomorrow. And I was like, okay, cool. And then the next like 4 or 5 days pass. It's the weekend. And he's like, okay, he's like, in a couple days, I'll have more info for you. Exactly a week after he messaged me on Tuesday, he goes, okay, here's everything you need to know. Here's what we'd pay you. Here's where you'd stay. Let me know. I can get you a ticket right away. And I was like, okay, when would that be? And he's like, sorry, a week hadn't passed. 2 days had passed. And he's like, yeah, for next Monday. So you'd be flying out on Saturday. So I had roughly, from the first correspondence that he and I had where he offered me a job to go to Poland, I had about 72 hours. So he messaged me on Tuesday with basically all the info saying, here's everything involving the job. Will you come out? And I said, yes. And he goes, all right, here's your flight. It's for Saturday night. So I had from Tuesday to Saturday. So Wednesday at dinner, I basically tell my family I'm moving to Poland in 72 hours. And they were like, excuse me? And I was like, yeah, my flight's Saturday night. So I quit my job. I was fortunate enough at the time to be back with my parents because I had just moved home. And I said, I'm just leaving everything here. I'm going to Poland for 2 months. See you later. And they were obviously not happy. But at that point, you have 72 hours. What are you going to do? You can't change it. So you might as well just get on board. And they did.
Well, I absolutely love that. I really do. And I suppose, as they would say, the rest is history. You've gone on to become, like I said many times already, one of the voices in esports. Well, look, I know that I could sit and talk to you for another hour, 2, 3 hours or more, because I just think everything you speak so well and it's so interesting. But I know that we've got schedules to run to, so I think we should switch on over to the Clutch It Out quiz. So, okay. I'll run through the rules again for anyone watching from home. This is the Clutch It Out quiz. Parker has 60 seconds to answer as many questions about Rainbow Six trivia as possible correctly. He can skip any question he likes, and his first answer will always be final. But these questions will be a bit of everything. So I'm just going to get this timer ready, because you gotta be professional, have these things ready before you start. So Parker, are you ready?
I'm ready. One up got picked up by Mocket, so he was still on 1UP. Yeah, like the core of the roster, they just got picked up by the bigger team after SI. But yeah, because it was their group was Penta, EG, 1UP, and I can't remember what the other team was in the group. Was it Vitality? Oh yeah, the invite team, the team that got in because of a Twitter poll. No controversy there at all. Yeah, that was the one where like politicians and like football players were getting in. Like some like French footballers with like 4 million followers were like, you need to retweet this. And I remember at the time, like some politician in France like tweeted about it, being like, you have to support Vitality. And it was just like, okay. Anyway,
right.
I hate it now because now the likelihood of me getting all but one wrong is like 0. So I'm boned either way, but let's go.
Yeah, your time starts now.
Okay.
How many secondary utility gadgets are available to defenders?
Defenders?
Mm-hmm. Would you like to skip?
6.
Correct. Who was the tourney MVP at the Sweden Major?
The tourney MVP at the Major?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm definitely going to get it wrong, but I'm going to say it was, I'm going to have to say it was Cyber.
Correct. Who holds the best of 3 kill record?
Is it Citizen now?
Correct. What 2 teams were runners up in the 2021 majors?
At both of them?
Yes.
So that would be 6 Invitational.
No, the Mexico and Sweden.
Oh, at Mexico and Sweden?
Yeah.
It was Ninjas in Pajamas for Sweden. For Mexico, it was Team Empire.
Correct. And how many hatches lead to the basement on Consulate?
On Consulate?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4 hatches.
Incorrect. And that is your time.
Oh, there's 5. I forgot the other one in Visa.
There's 6.
6? Where's the other one then?
So there's 2 in Visa.
1 in the
2
hallway.
2 in reception. 1 in bathroom
that's right,
and 1 in the hallway.
The little cubby in reception.
Yeah. So you got 4 correct.
Of the 5.
I think. Sorry?
That was 5 questions?
Yes. 4 out of 5 correct. So I think that puts you level with everyone else who has taken part.
Okay.
It's one of those ones, isn't it? You get asked the question and you start doing the mental maths in your head, and it kind of takes up more time than maybe you're expecting.
Yeah, I feel like that was a lot of addition, having to add up all the gadgets, having to add up the hatches while trying to balance the time. It's a tough one.
Yeah. Well, that was a really good show, and it puts you joint top of the leaderboard as things stand. But now we're going to switch things over, and we're going to jump to the Coastline Challenge. Interro, this is where you get to take on a realistic T-Hunt with Sledge entering through sauna. And we're going to do some little editing trickery right now. And when we come back, that T-Hunt will start.
Okay, let's do this. God, I haven't played T-Hunt in eternity.
So, Interro, this is going to be fun. So remember the rules. The time starts once you enter the building. You have to enter through the sauna door.
Right.
And once you have entered, it's all about how quickly you can get through it or how many enemies that you can kill. Are you nervous?
I don't think nervous because I don't think people watch me for my abilities, but I want to see how many I can kill, that's for sure.
Yeah, so
I just don't know.
Your time.
I just don't know what I'm dealing with here. Time started?
Yeah, your time has now started.
Realistic is nutty because they usually are good shots.
Yeah, and Coastline's fun too because as soon as they hear bullets, they just sprint to them.
Let them come.
See, what I love about how you're doing it already, Interro, is other guests, they just sprint room to room. So I like how you're taking the approach of one-man army and... Oh, no.
I didn't even hear him. I did not even hear him on the stairs. You think he'd make more noise? Oh, I guess they make more noise. Well,
yeah,
how many was that?
We will use our editor to do that, but we get another try. Don't worry. That was just your first attempt. You get another attempt now to beat the 5.
Got it. The moment you turn your back to them, that's the thing, right? Like, you turn your back and you're pooched. That's it.
And they've all got aimbot too. It's almost like playing a ranked game of Siege around Christmas time.
It is. I'm gonna bring stuns instead of grenades and see if that can help. There's how many spawn in? There's like 15, 30. Okay, well, let's go for it.
I like the taking the stones. A lot of people take this grenade so they can nade out the shields and, you know, kind of help them clear those.
Surprise, motherfucker.
But your time starts. Oh no. You know what? Redo this one.
Yeah, that one. I'll do it for you.
There's not supposed to be two of them waiting for you straight away. Yeah, just go get yourself killed.
We'll keep going. Still counts.
We'll give you the third try. I just don't think anyone expected two of them to be staring at you as soon as you open the door. I like it. I think it's a smart business decision here, staying in Sunrise.
I can't leave. There's one on Cool Vibes. Okay, well.
Isn't it? The fingers are warm now, I think.
I just... Let's come to me, I guess. If there's one behind the counter, I'm doomed. That's the thing.
3 HP in a dream. You've seen so many players in this situation before at the biggest events in Interro, and you know that you back them.
What door do they keep trying to break? It sounds like a door outside. Is there another in here? That is correct. There is. No, I was out of ammo!
Oh no!
Okay, well, you said that was a retry anyway, so...
Yeah, it was a good try, but we're going to keep that in the edit. That's a good score. That's the highest score out of anybody so far.
I can do better. I was not expecting two of them in there, so I feel like we can definitely do better. Who've played so far?
Fast Ann and Ollie.
Okay. All right, this is the real attempt now. If not, that last one was a real attempt.
It's okay. We can use some editing trickery to get it right.
I can't believe I forgot to reload.
Eliminate all hostiles.
If there's one in here, I'm just gonna freak out.
I would maybe use that drone this time.
No, I'm just gonna fire through. Looks like the room is empty. That's odd.
Yeah, they're bored of themselves out.
There's one on that shield as well. Ooh.
Ooh, nice flick.
It's kind of funny hearing them talk. Get some defenses onto that wall. Oh.
Remember when this used to be the go-to to get used to the game?
I remember. Oh no. Oh no.
We considered letting people do it with Sophia and the 300 bullets in the LMG, but we decided Sledge would be one that everybody was guaranteed to have.
One definitely dropped courtyard, I know that much. Alright, kitchen is going to be the huge obstacle here.
See, you've taken a different approach than the other guests that we've recorded so far. You've gone for the slow and steady method.
Well, of course. That's what wins the race, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's bathroom. Can't really ask anybody to watch my flank drones, eh? Nobody here to do it. Well, it actually looks like we've cleared out kitchen. I need ammo, though.
Like I can see the competitive streak coming through on you now when you're doing a little bit of drone work too. You can see the finish line.
Oh, come on. I think that's cleared out.
Just 5 enemies left. Are we about to have our first ever winner? Let's go!
10 HP too.
Interro, the first person to beat the T-Hunt challenge.
Let's do it!
Was it, I'm gonna, you acted cool, calm, and collected at the start, but I have a feeling you really wanted to win that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, the only issue with realistic terrorist hunt is not getting like shot from an angle you're not expecting, right? Because 90% of the time, if you push well enough, you'll catch them when they're not looking at you, and you can very easily just kill them. But
yeah.
the thing is that when they start to swarm you, all it takes is literally 2 seconds of them seeing you when you're engaged with somebody else, or you have your back to them, and you're dead because they don't miss their shots. So that's it.
Yeah. Okay, so Interro, you beat the challenge. I know you really wanted to. Like you said, they swarm you in realistic, but I think the approach you took, the slow and steady, wins the race. Like you said, maybe some of the other guests can learn from you. But I know you're competitive. You want to see that name staying on top of that leaderboard for the rest of this podcast.
I want it. It's same with the questions. I want to hold as many records as I can, so that people don't just think that I'm a nice voice. I can do a little bit more.
Yeah, you're better than that. But look, I think that if you like, we could get you back later in the year to maybe get more questions right. Maybe try beat your time. Maybe sometime after summer, once we get all, we get the first major and SI out of the way, and we can talk a little bit more, talk a little bit more business at that point about what's happened the year so far. But this is an exciting time. This is the start of the, some people say it's the end of the competitive calendar with SI coming up. Some people say it's the start. But for me, all I know is that I do want 2022 to be healthy and successful for everybody, including you, Parker. I want to thank you for taking the time out to join us today. I know that you've an incredibly busy schedule. It's been a real pleasure to get to know you. And, from speaking to you on camera, off camera, I really do think you're one of the good guys out there. And I wish nothing but success for you this year.
Well, thank you very much, and to you as well. I appreciate the fact that people go out of their way to create content like this. And I'm hopeful that you get some other guests who are absolutely better at Rainbow Six than me on your show and can share their unique stories as well.
I love it. Well, look, if you are looking to catch Parker outside of this podcast, there's several places you can do so. We will put them all in the description of this video, but I'm thinking you can catch you on Spotify. We can get you on Twitter, Twitch, anywhere else that we're missing that we can that people can catch you if they're looking for you.
I mean, nowhere else that I really advocate for people to find me. If they want to connect with me on Twitch or Twitter, that's the best way. And then, of course, 6 on 6 is on Spotify and on YouTube. So outside of that, there's really nothing else that I would ask people to follow me on.
Yeah, well, I want to thank you all for joining us on this very special episode of The Gibson Show. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment. And if you didn't like it, or if you have any other questions you'd like to ask, make sure and put them in the comments. But from me, Gibson, from my amazing guest, Parker, and the one and only Peak, who, we got to give a shout out and some love to those producers. Peak, want to give you a shout out too for stepping in on such short notice. We want to thank you all. And like I said, have an amazing 2022. Off.
Awesome.
Parker, thank you so much. That was an incredible interview. It was really cool to get to know you. I tried not to ask a lot of the questions you've been asked before. So that
it was great. I enjoyed it very much. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. And like I said, I think more content like this is good.
Yeah, and obviously I would love, hopefully at some point in the future, we do get the opportunity to work together again. Maybe someday we get a cast. One can only dream.
That'd be rad, man.
Yeah, well, look, I know that you said you had a hard stop at half, and we've gone a little bit past it, so
that's okay.
I don't want to keep you any longer, but I probably will be in touch. It's as another caster, it'd be nice to get some pointers from you in the future, and I'll be watching I'll be watching SI. I'm looking forward to see.
Well, thanks, and like I said, thank you so much for the work you do behind the scenes, because it's often a thankless role that you don't really get a lot of praise for what you do. And even if it's not like daunting or grueling work, it's still a necessary part of the job. And I know that a lot of times it can be absolutely grueling and daunting. So I have an immense appreciation and a lot of respect for people who work in the production side of things. So thank you for doing this. And once again, I'm sorry for being late, and I appreciate that, both of you were so accommodating with it. So.
Oh, no worries for me. Peak, everything that man said is true. We love our producers. And look, like I said, thank you so much again, Interro. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like I said, hopefully it's the first of many times that we get to talk to each other. But if you do travel to Sweden, safe flight, man. I hope you really have a good time, and I look forward to seeing what you guys put together.
I'm hopeful that SI ends up going off without a hitch, and I hope that it's a well-ran event with a good amount of reasonable precautions. So but yeah, thank you so much for having me on. it means a lot to me, and I hope that the content ends up being quite good, and I'm happy to share it when it comes out. So
we can do it again. I do have more questions, enough that we can do it again. It's up to you. I don't mind.
It's up to you. I mean, it's your show. I don't care either way. If you're okay with it going the way it's like gone and putting it up on the show, I'm totally okay with that. I just want to make sure that, you know, you're not ending up in a position where after the show is published or something like that, you're like, fuck, we made a mistake. So if
I'm going to do it again just to be sure. Sorry about this. This is you can blame me. You can say that Gibson guy's not professional whenever you get out of this.
Apologize. It's totally fine.
I'm okay with it. Right. Third time lucky. Let's go.